Welcome. This is your show, The Power of Education, where we discuss the transformative power of education and anything to do with education. And today we are discussing the issues of dropouts within our schools. Last year, the dropout rates were 49,555, meaning to say many learners were out of our schools. And to discuss this issue today, I'm joined by the Director, Advocacy and Communications, Mr. Taunga Nandoro. Director, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Director, the statistics about dropouts, they're alarming. The statistics are not good at all. Can you elaborate on the statistics, what is happening in our schools in terms of dropouts?
Yes, it's very unfortunate that we have got almost 50,000 learners dropping out of our education system for one reason or the other, mainly to do with it's financial constraints, it's the home environment, it's the community, it's the socio-economic environment. All those can be factors to ensure which make a child drop out of school. It's not like our children are dropping out because they're not interested in school. Of course, there's a very, very tiny percentage of those that may not be interested in school, but most of them are interested in school and in our education system. But unfortunately, for one reason or another, they then drop out. But as the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, we have strategies that we're implementing to ensure that we reduce that number to understandable levels, not the 50,000s. Maybe I can start with
maybe Director, before we get to the strategies, we would want to know what are the major reasons that are really causing dropouts in the schools.
The major reasons have to do with financial constraints, number one. Number two, it has to do with, the socio-economic environment. Number three, it could be the home environment. And the home environment is a very key issue in terms of dropouts, because we normally have households, some which are child-headed households, where the oldest child in that family is 13 years. But she also has to take care of her brother who's 9 years and her sister who's 5 years, and they all have to go to school, they all have to eat, they all have to do laundry. That sort of situation also causes dropouts. It also has to do with absent parents who are never there at home. The father is working across the border or in another town. The mother is never there. She's also working somewhere else, and the children are left alone. Or it's a situation where there's a step parent and the mother is not there. There's a father and a stepmother. The stepmother may be prioritizing her own children to go to school at the expense of the others where the parent is left. So there are a lot of issues, particularly to do with the home environment, that cause dropouts.
But one of the major issues that is coming out of the Statistics Director is the issues of early marriages and pregnancies, especially amongst the girl child.
Yes, indeed. The issue of pregnancies and early marriages are caused by the home environment. It's not if the home environment is very strong, if there is a solid background, there's a present mother and father, there's good parenting at home, issues of pregnancy or child marriages are almost non-existent. So in cases where you then have pregnancies and child marriages, it's because the home environment itself is very weak. It's a situation where some of the parents are absent, and the girl then gets married as a survival measure, to say, if I'm married, at least I can then be able to take care of myself, and if need be, take care of my siblings, because I am now a married woman at very young ages, 14, 15, 16. It's really sad. Also, the girls may then fall pregnant when they're not yet married, and this has to do with them trying to look for livelihoods outside the normal, respectable way of getting a livelihood. And then they end up falling pregnant, and life for them changes, and they do not continue in school because of that situation. So there are quite a number of issues that have to do with pregnancy and child marriages. But pregnancy and child marriages are an effect of something rotten within the household system.
So you're saying it's stemming from the family,
Yes,
family system,
It
and
stems from the family system.
and from the community.
Yes, and the community
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah, and what can be expected from the community to make sure that the issue of dropouts are actually dealt with?
You see, there's always this popular adage that it takes a village to raise a child. If the community really comes together and the community is solidly behind raising all the children within the village setup or within the town setup, the issues of dropouts could be a thing of the past. The issues of early pregnancies or child marriages could be almost forgotten. But you will find that we have got members of the community who can see that Mr. Nhlizio's daughter is indulging in premature sexual intercourse at the ages of 15 and 16, but he or she does nothing about that. Doesn't even advise the Mr. Nhlizio that your daughter has been seen with some artisanal minors and so on and so forth. They just say, it's his problem. We're not going to get involved. But the moment the community gets involved, there are a lot of preventive measures that can be taken, especially to deal with the issues of unwanted pregnancies or early indulgence in sexual intercourse, and especially the issues of child marriages. If a community comes up in arms when they hear that there is a man who has married a 15-year-old girl, and the community confronts that family or whoever has sanctioned that, I think those things become manageable, because marrying a child to make a child be a mother when she is also a child, it is very difficult for our children for them to progress in terms of education.
In all this, Director, what is the role of community leadership? We talk of your traditional leaders, you talk of your faith leaders, and all those community influencers that are there.
Our biggest community influencers, which we are very proud of in terms of how they lead and direct their community to keep children in school, are our traditional chiefs. You have certain chiefdoms where the chief does not allow, as a decree, any child to be married when they are underage.
Not already peaceful moment.
Yes, you'll have to pay a beast or 2 or 3 because you have broken the chief's law. Or someone to indulge in activities with a minor. That one is another very finable offense by the chief. And once the chief declares and decrees that I'm not going to have any child to drop out of school, or the chief says I'm not going to have any parent fail to pay fees at the school, or you have to report at the chief's court why you are failing to pay school fees for your children, and yet you have got assets such as goats, sheep, cattle, which you can dispose of some of them and pay your school fees. Why is your child being not in school because of school fees? So if the chief takes that leadership role, we are very proud of those chiefs because they have been helping our children stay in school. Obviously, they work in cohorts with the councillors, they work in cohorts with headmen, they work in cohorts with the Masabuku, and that community involvement is the one that has made sure that children are kept in school.
But Director, some of the challenges have been actually coming from faith leaders. Church leaders. Probably we might need to discuss this further when we come back from the break. We are taking a break. This is your show, The Power of Education, where we discuss the transformative power of education. Today, we are discussing the issues of dropout and the cause of dropout and the strategy that the ministry has put in place to curb dropouts. Please don't go away. Welcome back. This is your show, The Power of Education, where we discuss the transformative power of education. And today we are discussing the issue of dropouts. And I'm discussing here with the Director, Advocacy and Communication. Director, before we went to the break, we were now discussing to then say, the faith leaders, the church leaders, some of these churches are seen as the perpetrators of early marriages. What is your comment, on that?
Thank you so much for that important question. Yes, within some of the faith-based associations, there are issues of child marriages that are occurring. And as the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, we have engaged those communities. And we are very happy that some of those church leaders now are taking a role to discourage any marriages of underage girls. This has kept the girl child in school longer than previously. Yeah, because it's a sensitive issue, because remember, in faith there are certain beliefs that they do have, and it takes time to change or adjust someone's belief. But we are getting there. We have outreach programs. We have got community service fairs where we conscientize them on the advantages of letting a girl stay longer in school. That in future they can be able to assist their families as someone who's gone to school, who is now able to contribute meaningfully to the socio-economic transformation of that family, rather than to take an underage girl who barely has basic education and therefore cannot then transform the livelihoods of the family that she then gets married into. They are understanding it, and slowly, bit by bit, they are getting to, discouraging each other as men, that no, let's not take underage girls. Let's let them complete school so that in future, our future as a family may be better.
You have already started getting into the strategies, and I know the minister has taken, the president mantra to then say, and I know the ministry are saying, leaving no learner behind and no place behind. Probably you can now expand on the methodologies that or the strategy that the minister actually put in place to make sure that we kept dropouts.
The issue of dropouts is now very key within the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, where we now have a system called the Early Warning System. Now, the Early Warning System was piloted in 2023. It's a system that is there to early detect children who are at risk of dropping out. So we piloted it first in 5 districts, and then we moved to other districts in 2024. But as of now, in March, we now have about 30 districts and 545 schools across the country that are now using the early warning system. The early warning system is a mantra that we should use the 3 R's: retain the child in school, right? Readmit those that have dropped out, and reduce those that have dropped out. Reduce, like from the 50,000, let's reduce it. If we reduce it to 30,000, if we reduce it to 20,000, the following year we reduce it to 10,000, then our strategy is working. That early warning system is a system that is conducted by our teachers and our heads at the school level, where a teacher within the classroom may be able to identify, using attendance or pass rates, or that this child is now declining in school. What is happening to this child?
Something must be happening.
Something must be happening. And then when you probe, then you realize that no, the parents have just recently divorced. Therefore, that means the grades of the child are now going down. It also then is a sign that perhaps that child, next term, she or he may not come back to school, because they can be taken and said, now, since they are divorced, you are going to stay with auntie so-and-so, or they are deceased. Maybe they're not divorced, they're deceased. You're not going to be staying with auntie so-and-so. So it is now the duty of the school, the head, the administration, and in particular, the teacher, to identify a child who is at risk of dropping out of school. If the attendance is low, you see that a child every week, they do not come to school 2 or 3 days a week. That is an indicator that there is a risk here that this child may eventually completely not come back to school. It could be perhaps due to the distances that they could be walking to school.
So the teacher needs to investigate now.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm interested, Director, to then say, when the teacher is investigated, what is the next level of action that should be taken to ensure that we mitigate against that risk?
Thank you. When we have investigated, the teacher has called in the administration, the school administration. We have our guidance and counseling committees. If it is something that we can provide psychosocial support for, we then provide that support and reassure the child that everything is going to be all right. Don't these issues can be dealt with. If it's an issue that they are probably coming back home hungry, this is why we have the other strategies of the school feeding program, for instance, which is a great motivator for children to come to school, because sometimes the child may go back home, there's nothing to eat in the evening. In the morning they wake up on an empty stomach and they haven't eaten, but they are keen on going to school.
Yes.
Because at school there is a feeding program where we offer them one hot meal a day. So it's something that we then identify and realize that no, this child is coming from a situation where he or she is always hungry, and the feeding program is at school is what they look forward to. So there are mitigatory measures depending on the case that we're handling, and we handle these cases on a case by case basis. It's not just blanket to say that we have identified 20 children in this school who are at risk of dropping out, and then we bring them in a classroom and then just try to provide wholesome socio-psycho support. It's not possible.
It's on a case
It's
by
a
case.
case-by-case basis. We have to deal with an individual child because they have got individual circumstances. In most cases, if they have siblings, you will find that we have to deal with all the siblings. If there are 3 or 4 at the school, we deal with them because they are facing exactly the same problem at home, which is then threatening that they may not be able to continue with their education.
And the challenges, Director, also vary with the places.
Yes.
What might be affecting some in Manicaland might not be affecting some in...
Precisely.
Yeah. But Director, you spoke about the school feeding program as one of the safety nets that are there to ensure that, learners remain keen to be going to school. How viable is the school feeding program in our schools?
The school feeding program is very viable, but it needs support. Government always supports the school feeding program, but the schools themselves then support the school feeding program through their own coffers. But the greatest support that we look forward to is the community support. This is why we have the homegrown school feeding program, where we say the community comes together. They support, if it's gardening, they are supporting the school with the gardening for relish. And they also come to the school and say, okay, fine, I may not be able to contribute in terms of providing the others who actually come and provide the labor. They do the cooking, the utensils, they feed the children, and they have a roster. This week, it's Mrs. So-and-so and Mrs. So-and-so who are going to be doing the cooking and the cleaning and feeding of children. Then there are others who cannot. Then they say, I can't do that because I'll be engaged elsewhere. They can come with a 50 kg bag of maize meal and say, I can provide this to support the school feeding program. Others say, look, I do not have the maize. I can't provide any relish. I can't do any labor, but I've got some money. So I'm going to support you with $50 towards the school feeding program. Perhaps it's a business personnel. Then you've got Old Students Association. Those who went to those schools, they come in a big way. I went to Chinembiri Primary School. I want to support the school feeding. They come together as old students. They support the school feeding. So it's this homegrown school feeding program which involves the community, even businesses that are around that school. You see business persons who even went to that school supporting that school. You've got the councillors, you've got the members of parliament who also support the homegrown school feeding program.
We are taking a break, but you hear the director is discussing, giving us quite a lot of intervention that the ministry is taking place. We are taking a break. Don't go away. Welcome back. This is your show, The Power of Education, where we discuss the transformative power of education. And today we are discussing, the issues of dropouts and the ministry. You've heard from the director here that the ministry has come up with quite a number of interventions. But Director, I want to get into the other R. You spoke of the 3 R. I want to get into the readmit.
Yes.
What are the challenges that learners face when they are readmitted back into the system? My understanding is that some learners are readmitted, but almost face the same challenge that made them drop out in the first instance. Especially when we look at the issues to do with pregnant girls, the issue to do with those that would have given birth. Is the system conducive enough to then adopt back these learners?
Okay, thank you so much. You find that the issue of readmitting has been conclusively dealt with by the law. It's now the law. It's part of the Constitution. Yeah. It's part of the Education Amendment Act that says any child who falls pregnant is allowed in the formal school system. So a child may continue in the formal school system with a big belly. Not that the law promotes early pregnancies or early marriages or so. It's saying in the event that something like that does happen, because we cannot probably prevent, our mission is to prevent that from happening completely. But if something slips through, we should allow that girl child to continue with her formal education. When she gives birth, she is also allowed to come back into the formal education system, even when she is nursing a baby. And our schools have got infrastructure to cater for that child to be able to actually nurse her baby whilst she is at school, even being given time to go and nurse the baby and then come back into school. We've got some success stories which we're proud of. Some of the girls coming back to school, they fell pregnant at Form 4, they come back for Form 5, but they now have a child, and some of them have become 15-pointers. Some of them are studying engineering, medicine at universities across the country, and we're happy for them. And they learned their lesson, and they know that well, I slipped there, but still I have a second chance at life. This is why they remain in school. But we do have challenges in not related to how we are managing those that are admitted, but challenges of the community, challenges of the stigma that is around a girl falling pregnant and trying to come back to the school system. Some of the girls actually get married, and then the husband will say, no, I cannot have you go back into the school system. You are now my wife.
You cannot be a wife and a student at the same time.
Yes, you cannot be a wife and a student at the same time. So it's very difficult to try and get those sort of girls back into the education system, because the community and the society say, no, this is now our wife, we cannot have a mingling with. They now consider that the other children at school are young children. This one is now said to be an adult when she's actually a child who has given birth to a child. So those are some of the challenges. Then there are other challenges where a girl is not necessarily married, but issues of stigma now. It's difficult to go back into the school system because there's this jeering that you fell pregnant, what are you doing here, and so on and so forth.
I've heard words like return soldier.
Yes.
I've heard words like you can't sit on the same desk with someone who has given birth, otherwise you follow suit. And how is the ministry dealing with this behavioral issue, so that there is behavioral change, so that there's understanding from other learners and even from the teachers and the administration? The
first lessons that we're trying to give to our children across the country is that there is no benefit in you falling pregnant whilst you're still at school. And there's no benefit in you indulging in sexual activities whilst you're still at school. That time will come. Try and not do it. Well, unfortunately, in some cases, it then does happen, and the child falls pregnant. So our counseling is particularly to the girls and also to the boys, that when something like this happens, you should not jeer at her. It's a natural reproductive system. It is only that it happened at a time that is inappropriate. It was supposed to happen later, but we all come from a mother. We're all given birth from a woman. So don't jeer at her, don't laugh at her. make sure that you just befriend her, because it does not stop her from being a human being because she is now a mother. This guidance and counseling is normally given at assemblies, is normally given within the class system to ensure that the peers around that child who has come back to school after having fallen pregnant is then accommodated by the peers. In a school where a child is easily accommodated and everybody understands, the boys, the girls understand that, well, she slipped but she's correcting her own mistakes, that child normally then excels. It's a challenge when they are not accepted back into school by their own peers.
Thank you so much, Director. This was quite informative. Thank you so much. This is your show, and we were discussing today with the Director, Advocacy and Communications, and we were discussing about the intervention that the ministry has put in place in terms of curbing dropouts. He spoke of the community outreach fairs. He spoke of the early warning system to detect early any challenge that might be causing a learner to drop out of school. And he spoke about what the ministry is actually doing, the issue to do with the school feeding, so that learners are keen to go to school, so that learners enjoy going to school. And he also spoke about issues to do with the behavioral change and what the ministry is doing. This is your show, The Power of Education, where we discuss issues to do with transformative education. And my name is Clemens. We meet again in the next show. Bye-bye.